is Kate Sarber and Heather Hoyt. Kate Sarber was born and raised in Alaska and grew up camping, biking, and downhill skiing. Heather Hoyt is from near Boston, but knew she'd come home when she moved to Alaska in 1991. Both Kate and Heather discovered the joy of hiking later in life. Kate and Heather's 30-year-long friendship evolved into a long-term commitment 10 years ago, and last March they were married. Their snacks, Heather's is her favorite to take on a Chugach State Park outing is Backpacker's Pantry Creme Brulee. Kate's is M&M's. They're going to share their spur-of-the-moment overnight backpacking trip to Willowa Lake in August of 2000. Please welcome Kate and Heather.
Good? Wait a minute, I'm gonna picture everybody naked. No, you said not to, but ready?
All right. Thanks for coming tonight, everybody. My name's Heather.
And I'm Kate. So our misadventure hike was in the summer of 2020, and we had just moved into our house, and it had been a summer of packing and unpacking and moving, and we had not had any time to do any kind of day hiking or backpacking.
So about mid-August on a Friday night, we looked at the weather, and it was going to be a perfect mid-August weekend. Blue skies, perfect temperatures, and we're laying in bed, and I said, can we please go backpacking once before winter? Let's go to Willowa.
So I wasn't very enthusiastic. It'd been a long, hard summer, but I finally did agree and made the deal, and I said yes.
So basically I dragged her along. Did you get that? So that Friday night, we got our stuff together, and because we had been moving, our stuff was a little bit everywhere in the house, and my stuff's over here and your stuff's over there, and where's my sleeping bag? And it was a little bit of a chaos. But we got everything prepped Friday night.
And headed up to Glen Alps parking lot on Saturday morning. It was a beautiful day, great weather. Remember that when we had nice weather? So the hike started out pretty good, but I should have just listened to my gut to start with. I was extremely fatigued. I was just struggling. One of those hiking days where no matter what, my feet were in the mud. It was just hard.
So as you go along and then eventually you turn onto the Willowa Trail, we cut through, I hope that's the part that's getting fixed. Yeah. So we went through the muck, and then eventually you get on that little ridge line and thought, we've been hiking a couple hours, we could have lunch now. So we pulled off the side of the trail and had a little lie down for about an hour.
Yeah. So the lie down didn't help as much as I thought it was going to. I was still just slow as mud, just really struggling. But it was really nice out. And finally I just was like, how much further, Heather? How much further?
Almost there.
And I asked that numerous times.
Almost there.
And
So eventually it got to the point where, and I was, you go hiking with another person, sometimes you're on the high and they're on the low and vice versa. I was having a really good day, I was feeling really strong, and I said, hey, how about I carry your backpack for you?
And I was totally offended. I said, no.
So eventually we got to the outlet of the lake, and there's just kind of free-for-all there for where to cross to get to the other part. And where I had crossed previously, the water was a little bit too deep. She had had some knee problems that summer, so we were trying to figure out where best to cross. And we eventually went for this really skinny section, but it was deeper, but it was just a couple steps and then we were across. So we crossed and then had another little sit down and another little snack. Eventually, we got walking around. There was a lot of campers out that weekend. This was the first summer of COVID, so everybody was trying to get outside. And you could see just tents all around the valley. And we ended up finding a nice spot out on, it's not really an island, but just across the river, right at the base of the valley. It was so beautiful. So we got our tent set up and thought, all right, we can officially sit down now and have some dinner.
So I grabbed our fuel and the stove and started to get that connected. And there was a rock barrier that somebody had already set up because it's windy Willowa, and screwed it on. And then Heather, it was below us, of course, and we're bent down, and she goes to ignite it, and I still have it in my hand. I'm holding the can before we placed it. And before she ignited it, she goes, "Is it tight?" And so, yeah, it's tight, feels tight to me. And then she ignited it, and as I'm holding it, flames started shooting out at the thread towards my hand. So I go, "Ah!" and I chuck it.
Really helpful in emergency situations.
Yeah.
So I went over to it, and thankfully this area was a lot of dirt and rocks, not a lot of vegetation, and it landed on its side. So now the canister's like this, the flames are shooting out this way, and of course I had camp Crocs on. So I went over to it and went, and managed to flip it upright. So now at least the flames were going up towards the sky and not on the ground. But then we didn't really know what to do. We just stood there and looked at each other and looked at this thing on fire, and I was like,
What do we do?
what do we do with this?
The house is just gonna have to run its course.
You can't turn it off because the leak is coming from the seam. So eventually, it's probably all very fast, but it seemed like it took forever. I thought, well, if we snuff out the oxygen source, then maybe we can kill this fire. So I grabbed my titanium cook pot and I threw it on top, upside down, so it's down like this. But it wasn't quite tall enough to reach the ground, and there was still about 1 inch of air at the bottom for oxygen still to get in. And then I grabbed my Camelback, which had a little bit of water left in it, and I was sprinkling it around, dampening the ground around it. And at one point, the feet of the stove where you normally set your pot was melting, and you could see the metal dripping down onto the ground.
It was hot.
It was hot. It was a hot fire.
It was hot. So after we took a minute to stare and figure out what was gonna happen, I said, do you think we should back up?
Why?
And then,
Boom! It
just scared.
so loud. And because we're at the base of the valley, it just reverberated against the entire valley. And it was just like,
I'm sure you guys heard it.
if you were out there, you would have known that something happened. And so everybody's poking their heads out, looking, and our closest tent neighbor, who was like maybe from here to the room away, was looking out, and I was like, "We're okay!"
I swear we're not new. So after that, we were concerned that any of the pieces, if they were still hot, we didn't want it to, catch anything on fire. So we looked around for quite a while, just trying to make sure that we weren't missing anything. We did find the pot. It was
About 10 feet away.
It was quite charred. And then I found the fuel base, but that was it. Whatever was left of the can was
And
gone.
that was probably 30, 40 feet away
Yeah.
in like a boulder field.
Yeah.
The top of the canister completely evaporated. I don't even know the right word. It was just gone. It was like a magic trick.
If you guys ever see it out there, let us know.
Yeah. So we waited for a while to make sure nothing was going to get caught on fire, just making sure everything was okay.
And, of course, laughing our asses off, like how ridiculous this experience
So
was.
ridiculous. So at that point, we went back to the tent, We're still hungry, mind you. And now we're out of water, almost out of water. And we went back to our gear. And in fact, we had another stove, but we did not have another fuel can.
So,
Not new. We weren't new.
we're not new, but this was one of those trips.
Yep. It was just one night. Why did we need 2 fuel cans?
So we still needed water. We grabbed our dirty water bags and our Sawyers and headed down to the water and got a bag full, and I took the bag part and Heather grabbed the Sawyer at the bottom, and I'm just going, trying to get that water to go through the Sawyer. Harder! Just trying with all my might, and it would nothing was coming, nothing. And that's when we realized our Sawyers were dry as a bone.
Because we hadn't been camping.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good lesson. We did bring 2 of those, but they were both dry. And thankfully, she did happen to bring the back flush syringe, and we had just enough fresh water that we could back flush enough into the filter to moisten it, that we were able to at least get a stream, a very small stream, out of it, and we were able to refill our water. Still just completely laughing because it was just so ridiculous.
It was ridiculous.
And I think part of it too is like, we're so close to home.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is dumb. We finally got our water, and then as we were going back, the neighbors that were close by actually, because I went and talked to them about what happened, they loaned us their fuel canisters so we could make some hot water for dinner.
So after dinner, we called it a day. It was about 7 o'clock.
Done.
Because it was dumb. The day was dumb. And we get in the tent, and we actually seriously talked about, we should just go home right now. We should just pack up and go home. But we didn't, and instead we decided to take some sleeping aids. And I had the best sleep I've had in a tent ever. I was out, man.
So the next morning was absolutely, once we finally woke up, all drooly. So the next morning was absolutely perfect weather in Willowa Valley. No wind, blue skies. We're sitting there just at the, again, base of the lake, looking out to the valley. And there was a little family ptarmigan, little cuckooing around, doing their thing. And then there was a cow moose that was going down the valley along the side. And then, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes later, a young bull moose was trying to follow it. This was August, mind you, trying to follow the cow moose down the side. It was just National Geographic. It was so beautiful. Yeah. We're like, yes, we made it through.
So we packed up our tent and our gear, and as we were doing that, I had my contacts were already in, and I was having like just one of those contact issues, you know, just kind of bugged me. And I put my finger in there, and I was just trying to, you know, flick out whatever was bugging me. And as I did that, my contact fell into a fire pit, into the soot.
Not our fire pit, by the way.
No, not our fire pit, it was ours. So it just kind of was like, okay, here we go again. So I realized I had no glasses, because we grabbed everything quickly. I had no spare contacts, so my choices were to either have no contacts or one contact.
So one-eyed Kate and I left the tent site, and we started hiking down, and it's, you know, all just beautiful.
Yeah.
Cruising along, and then suddenly I stopped, and I said, whoa, there's a huge bull moose right off the trail, like from me to this first row away. This one says, where? I was like, you know what? If you can't see that, I'm not even going to bother telling you where it is. She did eventually see it, though.
I did.
So the rest of the hike out was great. It was, you know, for all of the chaos from the day before and that morning, it was just a perfect hike. We came around, and just as we were coming back up towards Powerline, ran into a friend of ours who's actually the one who invited us for this evening. told him our story and about the big kaboom and
heard through Willowall Valley.
yeah, and finished up the hike. Just really nice day.
Yeah. So we learned a lot and we laughed a lot. I mean, it was still a good trip, but it was just ridiculous. And I have been to Willowall Valley 3 times for different, camps or hiking, and I have yet to have a good trip in Willowall Valley. Sorry.